I've worked in this field for years, and a recent Reddit post about it got a lot of things wrong, not because the writer's malicious, but because it reflects a growing misunderstanding of how the market actually works. Imagine thinking you've uncovered some giant corruption in some industry, but what you're actually describing is how markets function. Let's break it down calmly. Here at the start, I want to be very clear. This is one person's take. It's not some truth carved in stone. I make mistakes, you make mistakes, and I could be missing something here. So pay attention. This is a commentary, not a call to arms. The goal here is discussion, not dogpiling. This is the top all-time post on r/gaming insider. You can see this is the list of the current moderators. And this is the moderator who made the post. To me, this says this is someone who's very passionate about this topic, and I'm really looking forward to reading through this together. I will read the entirety of it to the best of my abilities here. After I read it, I'll break down my thoughts. Gaming YouTubers making plus 500K while actual devs get laid off. Something's broken. Just saw another gaming YouTuber flex their new supercar while headlines report 15,000 gaming industry layoffs this year. We need to talk about how broken the gaming economy has become when people who talk about games make more than people who create them. The wealth gap is insane. Top gaming YouTubers plus 500K to 5 million annually from ad revenue, sponsorships, merch. While senior game developers 80 to 100K salary facing constant layoff threats. Junior developers 50 to 70K working crunch, no job security. YouTubers making millions, Mr. Beast, PewDiePie, Markiplier, etc. Developers who made their favorite games getting laid off to reduce costs. Let that sink in. Recent layoff numbers. Microsoft Xbox, 1,900. Sony PlayStation, 900. Electronic Arts, 670. Epic Games, 830. Unity, 1,800 jobs. Meanwhile, gaming content creators are buying mansions. Here's what really pisses me off. A YouTuber plays a game for 2 hours, uploads a video, makes $10,000 from views and sponsorships. The developers who spent 5 years creating that game just got laid off because it underperformed. The economics are backwards. Create game, risk 5 years, $100 million budget, lay off if it fails. React to game, risk 2 hours, free review copy, monetize regardless. Who captures the value? Games sell 5 million copies. Developers see nothing. Executives get bonuses. Half the team gets laid off. YouTuber covers the game, keeps 100% of the ad revenue, sponsorship money, merch sales. The influencer economy is parasitic. Gaming YouTubers build empires on other people's work, while creators of that work struggle for job security. They profit from games regardless of quality, while devs lose their job over Metacritic scores. Examples of the disparity. PewDiePie made millions playing Amnesia. Frictional Games, Amnesia's devs, had to crowdfund their next project. Streamers made fortunes playing Among Us. Inner Sloth, a 3-person team, got overwhelmed and almost shut down from success they couldn't handle. Reaction channels monetize game trailers. Marketing teams who made these trailers get laid off in cost cutting. But they provide value argument. Yes, YouTubers provide entertainment and exposure, but the value imbalance is ridiculous. Create a 100-hour RPG, make salary, get laid off. Upload 10-minute review, make more than developer's annual salary. What makes this especially infuriating, developers face crunch culture, 80-hour work weeks, no overtime pay, salary exemption, constant layoff threat, credit denied if leave before ship. Burnout and health issues. YouTubers face upload schedule pressure. Oh no, occasional algorithm changes. Having to play games. The horror. The skill disparity argument isn't there, but content creation requires talent. Sure, but so does programming complex game systems, creating art and animations, composing music, designing levels, writing narratives. One requires years of specialized education and training. The other requires a webcam and personality. The exposure excuse doesn't work. YouTubers gave games exposure. Great. That exposure should translate to developer job security, not just executive bonuses and influencer wealth. What's really happening? Developers pour into this game. Game launches. YouTuber makes millions covering it. Game doesn't meet unrealistic sales targets. Developer gets laid off. YouTubers move to the next game. The system is rigged. Publishers would rather pay influencers $50,000 for sponsored videos than give developers job security or profit sharing. Marketing budgets dwarf development budgets. We pay people to talk about games more than we pay people who make games. Recent examples: Starfield paid influencers millions for early access coverage. Then Bethesda laid off developers post-launch. The just become a YouTuber response: not everyone can or wants to be an entertainer. We need developers. We need game developers. We don't need the 50,000th reaction channel. Questions for the community. Is the wealth gap justified? Should developers get revenue share from influencer content? Are we valuing the wrong people in gaming? Remember when developers were gaming celebrities? What needs to change? Profit sharing for developers. If your game makes money, team should see it job security protections. Can't fire devs while executives get bonuses. Unionization. Industry needs collective bargaining power. Revenue share from content. If YouTuber profit from game, you should too. But we won't change because publishers love disposable workforces. Influencers won't advocate for devs. Gamers worship YouTubers more than developers. Systems work great for everyone except creators. The uncomfortable truth. We've built an economy where talking about games is more profitable and stable than making them, and we wonder why game quality is declining. Developers are treated as disposable cost, while influencers are treated as invaluable partners. Is this really the gaming economy we want? I think the first thing we should talk about in regards to this post is how it wildly misrepresents, misreads, and uses the data. This post is comparing the top 0.1% of creators that are making $500K to $5 billion annually. You're comparing the absolute richest creators to the average developer. We should really be comparing averages, not selecting the top 0.1%, not 1%, the top 0.1%, and then comparing them to a salary here. So first off, let's make sure we set what the actual average base salary is. In the US, that salary is $116,000, ignoring any and all additional compensation. If we go to the US Bureau of Labor and Statistics and we look up software developers, that's what video game developers are. They're software developers. They're video game developers. They're video game software developers. The 2024 median pay for this industry, for that skill set, using the US Bureau of Labor and Statistics is $131,000 a year. The job outlook for that skill set is 15%. That is much faster than the average. Now you might say, oh, but video game developers aren't really software developers. They're really computer programmers. Okay, the 2024 median salary for that was $98,000. Well, they're really hardware engineers. Okay, the median pay for that skill set is $155,000. If we're going to compare averages, instead of cherry picking the richest YouTubers and then comparing it to the average game developer, the average YouTuber makes $0. Let's be generous. Let's say they made $5,000 annually. The average YouTuber is not making $100,000. They're not making $50,000. They're not making $20,000. The average YouTuber is not. The top 10%, the top 5%, the top 1%, the top 0.1% might be in the competition for the average pay of a video game developer with this skill set. This post is blaming the wrong people. Layoffs in the video game industry are not happening because some YouTuber might be rich. Video game layoffs are happening because of corporate overexpansion, mismanagement, and market corrections. Content creators have nothing to do with that. YouTubers are independent commentators responding to market output. This is like blaming a sports journalist because an athlete might get a pay cut. The problem is not the commentary, it's the corporate structure. YouTubers only expand the market. That coverage sells games, it sells DLCs, it sells sequels, and these are things which keep studios alive. That's what they need to sell. Developers and creators, these YouTube channels, they exist in a feedback loop. One makes, one amplifies. Punishing one group for succeeding does not uplift the other. It only shrinks the entire ecosystem. This post brought up Among Us. Among Us is a great example. There's an interview with the developers of Among Us, which was brought up in this post, which actually is on the complete opposite side of this post. Quote, at the start of 2019, we had put our third map and had done enough bug fixes. The game functioned and we were like, all right, that's it. No more. Time to work on something else. Then when Among Us took off again, we were like, we should ride the wave. It was the YouTuber coverage that was creating that wave. It was the market conditions that allowed that to happen. YouTubers only expand the markets. Ultimately, developers benefit from YouTubers driving sales. There are people that absolutely bought Among Us because their favorite creator showed it to them, introduced it to them, made it look like fun. Ultimately, this post confuses two complete different markets. YouTubers and game developers are not part of the same labor market, and they are not part of the same revenue market. Developers are employees or contractors inside a production company. Video game developers sell their labor, their code, their art, their design to a studio or publisher in exchange for their wage. YouTubers are independent media publishers. They sell attention. This is a complete different commodity. They sell attention to advertisers and audiences. This is like comparing the chef's salary to the restaurant critic's income. Yes, they both revolve around food, but they operate in separate economic systems. One sells a product, the other sells coverage of that product. There's no broken economy between them. It is two unrelated value chains. Yes, PewDiePie did play Amnesia in 2010. There's no evidence he, quote, made millions. Much more likely his peak earnings were closer to 2016 or 2018, 6 or 8 years later, and not just from one time spent in Amnesia in 2010. The developers of Amnesia, Frictional Games, made a blog post 1 month after release date. Quote, with 1 month of data to analyze, how did things go? I think it can be summed up with better than expected on all accounts. As of today, we have sold a total of 36,000 units. Our goal, which would determine if we would continue or not, was 24,000. Having met and exceeded that goal already feels quite nice. End quote. Frictional Games did not have to crowdfund post Amnesia. The original Reddit post talked about because PewDiePie made money, they had to crowdfund. That's categorically false. This post wildly misunderstands risk and value creation. YouTubers take on a personal business risk that developers do not. If their channel fails, there is no severance, no unemployment insurance, no corporate safety net. They own all the downside. Meanwhile, the average developer gets steady pay during production, benefits and insurance, and are afforded labor protections. The system is not rigged against developers because of YouTubers. I think this post might be angry at layoffs, but scapegoating YouTubers distracts from the root cause, which is frankly corporate greed and market volatility. You should be more accurately placing blame on publishers and a lack of profit sharing. Unions and revenue shares might be a good idea, but forcing revenue shares from a YouTube video would actually just be stifling fair use and creativity. The industry might need better labor protection, but it definitely does not need pitting one group of creators against another. A healthier industry would protect devs without demonizing the creators who help sustain it. Creators provide real value. They entertain, they review, and they expose games to audiences publishers cannot reach. Discovery today more than ever relies on creators and social media presence than a storefront and a cardboard cutout. The facts are the, quote, exposure excuse isn't an excuse. It does work and it is mutually beneficial. There's a reason there's budget spent on it. Yes, Starfield famously did pay for early access coverage. This is a common practice, but trying to claim that millions was spent is unsubstantiated. I think there's an underlying sentiment throughout this post where it frames fairness inside of emotions and not economics. There's an assumption that creators earn too much for too little work. Quote, YouTubers can upload a 10-minute review and make more than the developer's annual salary. It is not unusual for a video game review to have somewhere between a $1 and $5 RPM. This means post-tax, a 10-minute review with 1 million views might earn around $1,000. That is far less than the annual developer salary. That is wildly short of the average annual developer salary. There's a listing of the constant layoff threat. That's right. If you post a video and it makes 0 views, you have no money. It's the same thing. No overtime pay. Right. YouTube channels don't get overtime pay either. Burnout and health issues are not exclusive to developers. It's probably more prevalent for high earning YouTube channels. You think crunch culture is 80 hours a week. I think most successful YouTube channels do that year round, year after year. It might consider that a light week. There's a part here that talks about, oh no, occasional algorithm changes. I've lost hundreds of hours of work to algorithm changes. I've had my pay cut flat 50% in half. Algorithm changes are massive. The part here that talks about having to play games and how difficult that is. If you genuinely think that recording games is the majority of the work or the skill set involved with a successful YouTube channel, I'm going to update you. You're wrong. That is the absolute minority of time spent. There's a line in here that says the skill disparity argument is ridiculous. One of these requires years of specialized education and training. The other requires a webcam and a personality. That is categorically false. I openly challenge anyone that believes that's all that's required to go for it. Prove me wrong that that's all that's required. And maybe you are the outlier. I think facts are both require years of specialized education and training. I think a more realistic expectation would be a minimum of 500 hours of study. You're going to need 100 hours of video editing practice, 100 hours of learning content strategy, 100 hours learning YouTube's systems and tools, and 100 hours of graphic design. That's at least 400 hours with an extra 100 hours to put into what you're weakest at. I think you realistically need 4 to 10 hours to make a decent 6 to 12 minute video. I think you should expect an optimized thumbnail and title to be a minimum of 1 to 2 hours. Your research and scripting is likely 2 to 6 hours. If you're uploading 1 to 3 times a week, at the very least, that's 7 hours of video. More likely, much longer. You should plan on doing that 1 to 3 times a week for 2 to 5 years. You probably need somewhere in between $0 and $5,000 worth of capital to make a competitive production value content between cameras, lights, microphones, editing software, and so on. I'll even give you another resource beyond a time estimate, a channel called Roberto Blake. Put out a video just this year. Current title is The Brutally Honest Truth About Starting a YouTube Channel in 2025, Real Advice for New YouTubers. It's a great video. If anything, the pendulum swings in the opposite direction. Video game developers have a proven curriculum and path to employment, to success, and to skill acquisition. YouTube channels have the opposite. I want to highlight here this post is emotionally truthful, but economically just a fallacy. It captures frustration, but it misfires at the target. The system might be unfair, but not because creators make money. Both groups, developers and YouTubers, are laborers trying to survive in an unstable system driven by corporate priorities.